A village that was completely abandoned for over 20 years had its secrets. When the bulldozers moved in to demolish the dilapidated houses, they uncovered something horrifying. But we'll get to that in just a moment. It all started when urban explorer Marcus Newton stumbled across the village of Glyn Castle while exploring the abandoned areas of Ireland. He found it to be one of the most depressing places he'd ever seen. He said that the homes were in a state of disrepair and that many of them had collapsed. The place was filled with trash and debris, and there was a palpable feeling of sadness and despair in the air. It was clear that the residents had been forced to flee their homes in a hurry, leaving behind their possessions and their lives. Marcus returned to the village several times, and each time he uncovered more and more about its tragic history. He learned that the village had been abandoned in the early 1990s after the government declared it a health hazard. Apparently, the homes were riddled with asbestos, and the people who lived there were getting sick from it. The government offered the villagers a deal: leave your homes and we'll pay you a small amount of money. Most of the villagers took the offer, but a few held out, hoping to get a better deal. They refused to leave until they were literally dragged out of their homes by the police. Marcus also learned that the village had a dark secret. In the 1800s, a series of brutal murders had taken place there, and the killer had never been caught. Some say the killer was a member of the Royal Irish Constabulary, the police force at the time, but others believe it was a local farmer who had a grudge against the villagers. Whatever the truth, the murders had left their mark on the village and its inhabitants, and many of them had fled, never to return. But it wasn't just the murders that had driven the villagers away. There was also the blight that had struck the area in the 1940s. The potato crop, which was the main source of food for the villagers, had been wiped out by a fungus, and this had led to a period of famine and disease. Many villagers had died, and those who survived had been left with nothing. By the time the 1990s rolled around, the village was a shadow of its former self, and the people who lived there were desperate to escape. After the bulldozers had cleared away the rubble, Marcus returned to the village one last time. He wanted to see what was left of the place that had become so infamous. But what he found was even more disturbing than the dilapidated houses and the trash-strewn streets. He found human bones. The bulldozers had uncovered a mass grave where at least 10 people had been buried. It was clear that these were the bones of the villagers who had been killed in the 1800s. Their bodies had been dug up and thrown into a mass grave in the middle of the village. But why? Who had done this and why? Marcus was determined to find out. He contacted the local authorities and told them what he had found. At first, they didn't believe him, but when they came to investigate, they found that he was telling the truth. The bones were sent away for testing, and it was confirmed that they were indeed human. The police also uncovered a hidden chamber beneath the floor of one of the houses. Inside the chamber, they found a number of artifacts, including a hatchet, a rope, and a leather strap. The police believed that this was the murder weapon and that the chamber had been used to store it. But there was still one question that remained: who had committed the murders? After interviewing the locals, the police were able to piece together what had happened. It seemed that the Royal Irish Constabulary had been involved in a cover-up. They had arrested a local man for the murders, but it was later discovered that he was innocent. The real killer was a member of the RIC, but he was never caught. His name was wiped from the official records and the case was closed. To this day, the murders remain unsolved, and the village is known locally as the Murder Village. Visitors are warned to stay away, but some people still venture into the village to see what remains. If you're one of them, be careful. You never know what you might find. Now watch. This place is actually haunted, or terrifying abandoned places in your country.